look, I can tell you right now, in my early days, God, if somebody said, "Hey, Brett, what's your why?" and I'll go, "Why what? How do I want to move forward in my life? How do I want to be, who do I want to be around?"
They think they're dogs. We haven't told them that they're turkeys. And he now gets up, not just on our beanbag and lays in between the cushions and overlooks the valley on the beanbag. He now shares the bed with the dog and also jumps up on the lounge next to us while we're sitting out there, having a cuppa, and he just props himself up on the arm.
Women on a Green Mission. Follow along as two friends document their unfurling permaculture journeys.
Join our chats each week where we will be sharing how we and others apply the ethics and principles of permaculture to our gardens and daily life.
We're no experts. We're at the start of our journey, learning and fumbling our way to a greener life. You're guaranteed to witness a few successes, plenty of failures, laughs and swearing. We'd love your company along the way.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Practical Permaculture Podcast with Jo Flintham and Elise Gallagher.
Hey Elise.
Hi Jo, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. It's a late night recording tonight, so you'll have to excuse us if we're a bit
Yeah, the energy's starting to wane a little bit. It's sort of like, I'm sliding.
It's nearly my bedtime.
I know. That's because we are big party people and it's 10 to 8 and we are so ready for bed.
But we have just got off recording an epic podcast with Brett from Limestone, which is probably why we've got no energy, because he's just amazing and that was such a great chat.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, to be honest, we could have done a 4-hour episode with Brett easily. And probably longer. The amazing topics that we got into, and even some sideline topics that we got into as well.
He's such a legend.
Oh, I mean, it's. I know that we said it, and we sound like we're fangirling big time, and I suppose we are, and rightly so.
We are.
We totally are. But yeah, just the knowledge that he has, but it's the knowledge is only really surpassed by the passion that he has. The passion and the energy and the dedication that he has, and not just him, Nikki, his wife as well, and Bronte, his daughter. I mean, they're the full package deal, and what they're able to achieve on an acre and what they've been able to achieve in 13 years. I mean, people have spent whole lifetimes not even being able to get close to that, and he touches on this in the interview, and you guys are going to get to hear it, around vision. Having a vision and having a really clear understanding of what your why is. And I loved it. I just smiled the whole way through.
And it's not just his knowledge, he's just a good guy. You want to pump those people up because they're just cool to be around, and they're just so giving of their time and energy, and they're kind, and it's just their vibe. I love it. It was awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly hope that you enjoyed it. We enjoyed having a chat with Brett, and I have no doubt that we will be chatting to him again in the future. And there is going to be a little bit of a teaser. We have some exciting giveaways that involve limestone permaculture coming up.
We do. So before we get into the podcast, how was your week, Jo?
Ooh, my week has been busy. It has been a little bit busy. It's been a bit hectic. And I suppose that's kind of the time of year. We're finding that we're being really social, which it's great, is really great, but is a little bit tiring as well. I really want to just come back and get grounded and really get stuck into the projects that we've got going on here. So, but it has been wonderful to catch up with a whole heap of friends, and we've got more catch-ups happening next week, and we've got you guys arriving on Sunday, and I'm so excited.
Yes. Little sleepover for the week.
You've been to?
Yes, we had a big week this week. We actually signed our contracts and we exchanged today on our block of land.
Yay! Finally!
Yes. Oh my God, it was last minute. They called, they were like, we've got a cash buyer. They've offered more money. You need to sign today. You have to get it all organised. So it was a bit of a scramble. And I had my heart beating all morning trying to make sure it all came together, but it did. So we settled just before Christmas, which will be a lovely little Christmas present to ourselves.
Wonderful.
And yeah, we get to go back in the new year to our property and start that journey, which is just mind-blowing that we're actually there now.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, because I could only imagine that conversation and how you would have felt thinking, shit, here we go again. Like, we got picked on the last one and it's going to happen all over again. But
yeah,
yeah,
and it
the
was like
universe delivered.
heartbreaking last time because we told the kids, like, this is our new block, like the 100 acres. And then we told them, oh, somebody actually bought it instead of us. Like, they beat us. And Addie would go around to anybody who would listen and be like, someone bought our block before we did, and they took our block of land. And she was like outraged that we missed out on the block. So I was like, oh God, I have to deal with her going through all those emotions again, because she was so attached to that first block. We'd visited it so many times. But yeah, no, she's stoked because we've been there the last couple of weeks, and she's like, this is my new playground and my new beach. And so she's really kind of getting attached to the area, and we've already met some little friends and had play dates. And, you know, Fergus is so stoked. They've got like this family we met, and they've got 2 boys. So he's like, you know, broing out with the boys at the playground. It's very cute.
Oh, how wonderful to be able to, sit down, and right before Christmas too, to know that when you're done visiting everyone for Christmas and you're back in the van, you can go home. You're not going back to just somewhere to keep traveling. It's home.
And I found out today that once our DA gets approved, we can apply for 12 months to live on the block in the caravan legally. So we won't have to worry. Yeah, we won't have to worry about
on your own property.
Oh my God.
Bloody ridiculous
loopholes. But anyway, so yes, we'll be able to legally live on our own land for 12 months, and then you can extend it for, I think, a year after that at our council. So that was kind of a relief as well, to kind of know that we could comfortably live there without anybody tapping on our shoulder or telling us to kind of jog on. So it really takes the pressure off financially for us as well, which will be good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you both. I can only imagine that it'll be feeling good, and we'll be celebrating come Sunday. Yes, we'll be definitely having a few bevies and celebrating your new home.
Thank you. Sounds like a plan. All right, well, everybody enjoy the show, and we'll catch you at the end. Hello, and welcome back to another week on the show.
Hi, this is exciting. We've got an amazing guest today.
Today's extra special because we've got Brett on here, and he's the whole reason this podcast started. Not to give you a big head, Brett.
Like, no pressure whatsoever on this.
Oh, thanks, ladies. Thank you.
So before we get into it too much, we'll just say where we're recording today. So I'm up at Broom's Head recording on Yagle country. Whereabouts are you, Brett?
I'm at Stroud Road on Warramai country.
Joe?
Lovely. I'm where I always am, in Leconfield on Wanneroo country.
Lovely. So like we said, Brett is the whole reason this podcast started, how we both got into permaculture, how we got introduced to permaculture. So we're rapt that he could make some time and come and have a chat with us.
Absolutely my pleasure.
What have you been up to today, Brett?
Well, I've been very busy taking the wife around everywhere. That's not what you want to hear.
Have you been op shopping?
I have done nothing but chauffeur. I've been chauffeuring all day. Sorry. So yeah, today's not a good day. I can make something up for you if you like.
No, that's fine. Let's relax.
It's life. That's how life rolls.
Yeah. Just a day away from the farm down in Newcastle, and just doing the general pickups, ready for the next courses. Catching up with family that we don't see all the time. So
that's nice.
That's important too, especially this time of year, because it gets to the pointy end and we're all running around like, crazy humans trying to fit everything in and get everything done, and to be able to still have those connections and prioritize them, that's important.
Absolutely. It was a good day. It was a very good day.
Oh, lovely.
And so I was talking to another one of our students the other day. We went and had breakfast with Von, and she was telling me that she came and did the Native Bee Day at your place.
The Stingless Native Bee Day, yeah, that was a great day with Steve McGinnity from the Australian Native Bee Company. Came down from up north, and we ran 2 separate workshops. And yeah, Von turned up for one of them, and they were completely full and amazing learning experience. He runs deep. He goes to all avenues.
Really, just like singing its praises. Like she was showing me her notes, and just was able to go through like so much detail. So yeah, we got really excited about it when you put your post up that you're looking for interest to run it again. Is it early next year that you're looking at running that?
Yeah.
Yeah, normally we don't run it till November's. Normally we don't run it till November, but Steve's been good enough to come back down in January because there's a certain period in time when you can actually play with the bees, split hives, extract honey, and that's only during sort of that November, December, and January sort of starting to push it, because when you disrupt a hive, you're looking for them to stabilize again, and it has to happen in their warm season.
Yeah.
So, but mid-January is fine, and we're hoping to get the numbers and run another workshop, and very excited if we could, because Steve's an awesome guy to have down, and everybody, as I say, everybody got so much out of it. He also comes in from a permaculture perspective, so he doesn't just talk about the bees. He talks about a little bit of understanding the location for where you should place your bees based on the ethical side of things, looking after them, caring for them, and also delves into the nutritional value of the honey, and on and on and on.
We'll have to put a link in the show notes and post it on social so that everybody can find that and book in if they want to join.
Absolutely, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I reckon we might even hit Steve up to try and come on the podcast.
Watch him; he talks more than me.
That's good. That's good. We're definitely, we're definitely keen to do it. I've just got to, work out some dates, but we've got heap going on early next year.
New job.
Yeah, looks like I've got a new job. We've wrapped up. On a little side note, we've wrapped up the business, and both of us have gone off and become gainfully employed. So.
Right. Okay. And at the moment, it's hush hush. I take it.
No,
not really from the podcast.
Not really. Talking about it. No, he's got his offer today. I've got my medical tomorrow, and I'll get an offer by the end of the week. So, it'll
change again.
It'll give us time back, as opposed to stressing about where the next client's coming from and doing all the small business stuff.
So to give everybody a little bit of context, can you tell us a bit about your little patch of earth and your business that you're running from there?
Okay, you've got plenty of time.
We're settled in. Mind you, I should have got a glass of wine, but I got my water.
Awesome. No. Okay, so for those that may not know, we are Limestone Permaculture, and we're on 1 acre of land. It's just a tad above one acre, at a little village called Stroud Road, which is north of Stroud by about 6 minutes, and it's classed as the mid-coast of New South Wales. It's a beautiful block. It's a east-northeast facing block with a slight slope, anywhere from 4 degrees to 12 degrees. Some reasonably good rainfall, not too bad. So annually we're upwards of around sort of 1,100 millimetres per year. But it was a block of land that we've only been on stewarding for 13 years. And it feels like it's a lifetime, and which is a good thing, by the way. It's a beautiful place, and it has allowed us to facilitate our passion. So it's allowed us to bring forth the things that we actually didn't think we actually had in us all those years ago, and now it's just bursting out. So everything from education and demonstration and catering and just collaborating and associating with awesome people like yourselves. It's an awesome place. For me, I suppose, first and foremost, we're a permaculture principled homestead. You could call it a micro farm. Our I suppose these days for us, it's about education demonstration. But initially, it was about setting up a place that would support our family and where we could sell some produce and share that with our neighbours and our small community. It has evolved. We don't actually sell produce anymore. These days, we put most of our time back into the education and demonstration and collaboration. Yeah.
But it didn't start there. It started a lot earlier.
Oh, look. So prior to that, so if you think that we turned up here in 2010, we had a little place in Mayfield in Newcastle, New South Wales, and it was called the Urban Squeeze, and that started in 2001. Now, that wasn't a permaculture property to start with. That was a place where we found out about permaculture.
Yeah.
So in 2001, we're building this little urban place on 330 square meters.
Oh, it's a postage
which is
stamp.
pretty damn. It is tight. It is very tight. So the place was 330 square meters. Typical block in Newcastle had rear lane access, which was great for such a small block. And from the idea of becoming more aware about what we're eating and our health, Nikki's issues with her health and gut as well, drove us to, at the very least, become more organic and grow organically. So that's where that began. So we started as a small urban homestead. Never really called it that back in the day, but these days that's what we do. So there's urban and rural homesteads.
Yeah.
And so we started at that urban homestead level, and that allowed us to experiment and trial things and work within very tight spatial requirements, and we learned how to make use of every square centimeter, not square meter, but every square. I mean, we literally anywhere that you found the tiniest space had potential, and you had to try and use it. That was the challenge back then.
You were telling us about how you were growing veggies on the roof. So you had this roof space, and you put the pots on the roof and had an access ladder there, and you were just, like when you said you were utilizing every square centimeter, like you were going up, left, right, down, every which way.
Yeah, look, I suppose you got to take a little step back and understand that at the time, so think around 2001, 2002, at that time, and I was late coming to the game when these days we look back and speak to some of our peers and whatnot that have been in the permaculture since the 90s and the 80s. But for us, it was 2001 and 2002, and then I started watching some films, some TV series and films and stuff, and it was a bit of Bill Mollison, Jeff Lawton, River Cottage UK, long before the Australian one came out.
It's
Hugh
cool.
Foley Whittingstall, awesome stuff, right? Awesome stuff. So that was inspiring, and we started to get snippets of ideas that we could do on our property. Then, even in those first couple of years, I got invited to be involved in a community garden down the road at Mayfield. So that also, I met people, and they had ideas, and so we started sharing. And obviously, the idea of the ideas is they're meant to be passed on and utilised. So we started trialing things from the people's ideas and the show's ideas that we got, and we come up with this idea of trying to get pumpkins and squash and general cucurbitas like cucumbers to grow over this little bit of roof coming off the back of our house. And it was like a little scissor roof, right? And so it had an area where you could put like pallets, lightweight pallets, and you could set pots in them, decent sized pots. These were like anything from half the size to the full size of a wine barrel. And so we were growing pumpkins and squash and all the rest of it out of that. And we just wanted to see what would happen. And there were some things that went wrong, of course. And so, things like, filling the gutters with soil and leaves and things like that. So you learn really quickly on how to fix that. But yeah, we actually end up getting, and we've got photographic evidence. The one thing we've always done is take a heap of photos. So we've got photographic evidence of the produce we grew out of that tiny little courtyard place. And we had amazing pumpkins and amazing squash and the rest of it come out of that. And so, yeah, the rooftop stuff was born out of the initial inspiration of permaculture and organic growing.
So cool.
Mm.
Was there a tipping point when you were at Mayfield that you were like, okay, we're going to take this bigger or to the next level or turn it into a business? Like where was that journey for you?
Yeah, that was years later. So we were like everybody else. We've never had a lot of money, and so both my wife and I worked. And so there was the time to do this was afternoons and weekends, and you're cutting into your social time and things like that. So for us, it was a little bit of a gradual appeal to try and utilize as much space as possible. But the initial inspiration was a little bit like fireworks. If you could imagine the idea that, first of all, my wife's ailments and her gut health was a trigger, and then starting to see these shows that starting to watch these shows we've never watched before, then were inspirations, and then meeting people were the other inspirations. This then allowed us to sort of explode in the things we were thinking about moving forward, but the time it took to get there was a little bit slow to start with. So in those first few years, it was about just getting the place right. And again, I'll come back to the idea that initially it's not about building the business, it's about looking after your family. So initially, it's about building resilience in all the things that are required to have that healthy, happy life, right? So we worked on that, and we're still working on that to this day. But then by about 2007, 2008, we had opportunities to start having little farm tours for people who were around the neighbourhood and community and other parts of Newcastle, wanting to come and have a look at what we were doing, because they were seeing things coming out everywhere, right? And they were interested to see what we were doing. So that sort of started something. Now, in those days, there was no charge; everything was free. So we were just trying to collaborate, and we always have, but we were collaborating with all the local community gardens that were within the realms of where we lived. And so that sort of started to give us a little sniff of what may be possible down the track. So if you're to say anything that triggered or instigated that idea that there could be a business for us, I think the initial collaboration, meeting with like-hearted people, and having those people come to our place was the first instance. Yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear that too, because I know that I've spoken to a lot of people, not necessarily all permaculture based, but looking to, I just want to start a business. I want to, grow food from home, or do this from home, or do that from home, and be able to just start something up and kick it off. And it's like, well, it takes a little bit more than just waking up one day and going, this is a nice idea and I want to jump in. There's a lot more that happens in that knowledge gathering and those connections, and really having things come together. And like you said, like, it kind of just happens. It's not something that you were setting out to do.
No, look, I think that I think we all come from a place where there's always that initial, that idea that you're either been somewhere and you've walked up to something and wanted to know what it was about. Somebody's mentioned something to you. You've seen a book launch. You've watched a video. There's something that's triggered that idea, where it might not even be the word permaculture. It could be regenerative farming, or living a more resilient life, or being more sustainable. I mean, there's all these fantastic words that describe potentially a better life. So then that's where for me, that's where it starts. For a lot of people we educate and that we collaborate with, that's what they say to us. They go, well, there was this instance, right? So for us these days now, it's like, how can we provide that back as well? How can we give the trigger? How can we give that starting point? But when you're kicking off, it's always going to be a transition. Not everybody has the coin in the bank to just drop what they're doing and jump straight into it. And I mean, if you have, cool, awesome, right? But generally speaking, the populace don't. So it's all about transition. And if it's all about transition, how do you transition? And you need to start. And the very first starting point is a vision. Like the idea that the idea that you're actually thinking about it, going, oh my God, I want to have this life. I want to do something with this. And it's not about where you're living. It's not about where you want to live. It starts with the life you want to have. Now, if that life you want to have means staying in the urban scenario and being amongst people and having this fantastic connection with everybody, it's awesome. I love the urban permaculture stuff. If it means that you want to have, want to move to the country and have a little bit more space, that's great too. It's all, it doesn't matter which way, but it starts with a vision, and then that vision forces you, whether you like it or not, it forces you to ask yourself, what is your why?
Yeah.
Right. And I think the minute you actually start to do that, and we don't all do, look, I can tell you right now, in my early days, God, if somebody said, hey, Brett, what's your why? And I'll go, why, what? Oh, like, what are you talking about? Yeah, what is my why? So when I did get asked this back in the day, and I got asked by multiple sources, it gets you to start thinking about, well, what do I really want? How do I want to move forward in my life? How do I want to be, who do I want to be around? And how do I want to live? And how happy do I want to be? So once you start getting that way, that then starts to formulate the start of a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes from there and it moves into the design process. Now, I'm not going to waste everybody. But
this isn't an intro course.
Yeah. That's right. So yeah. Look,
but if
honestly,
you want an intro course, Brett does offer those.
Absolutely. But look, honestly, it's the when you think about that very first point where, first of all, you're triggered, you're awakened, and I know I don't like the woke thing.
Woke, yeah.
But you can awaken to an idea, right? That's okay. And so I was awakened to an idea, and the idea was, whoa, there's more to life than what I thought there was. And so, and my wife felt the same way, and we started talking about it. Once we started talking about it, we started thinking about goals. We started going, well, what if we did this, and what if we did that? And then the more we talked, we went, well, we need to start thinking more about this, and it turned into a vision. And then the vision forced us to start writing things out, and that's the start of a plan, right? So yeah, that's how it starts. I mean, that's how everybody should, at the very least, it's how everybody should start off by sitting down and just asking, what is my why, and where do I want to be from this point on?
Do you find with everything that's going on in the last, let's say, 5 years, politically, culturally, around the world, pandemics, et cetera, global warming, blah, 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 that people are coming to this more, and you're finding that there's more people interested? Or, how do you find that?
It's a good question. There's quite a lot of angles. So permaculture's been ticking away since 78.
Yeah.
And prior to that, there was the 60s movement, and so and the hippie side of things and stuff has always been looking for a better way, a better life, and I totally respect that and appreciate it. So for me, I think the last 5 years, you could say definitely the last 3 to 4, especially in New South Wales, if you think about what I call events that have caused discomfort to people. So the last 5 years have been a little bit special in how condensed the amount of events have happened. So, if you think about drought, fire, flood, COVID, right? Then we're moving into, right now, there's a big impact financially on interest rates. So the government's idea of how to look after us is not as clever as they think they are, right?
It's interesting. Yep.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So we won't go down that avenue. But
feeling the squeeze.
Yeah, but really, you've got a whole series of events that are so that there hasn't been a release of pressure in the last, and I would say you're right, 4 to 5 years. 2019, I felt like it was really that was the start of this period of time. So you could say a good solid 4 years.
Yeah, that's when 2019. That's when I cracked the shits and said I've had enough. Like that was it for me.
I think a lot of people did. It's forced a lot of people, like amazing how many people have sort of moved outwards to the land. And not that, and look, that's not the answer either, by the way.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, that costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of effort. It's you know what, living on the land isn't like Instagram, and anyone that wants to come out and actually experience what it's like, more than welcome to come and visit me, because we have a shit show of a property, but we love it. We absolutely love it, but it is not Instagram worthy.
No. And look, again, the idea that these events have impacted all our lives, and I don't think there's a person in Australia that hasn't been impacted, even those with wealth. But those that like all of us, where you're working day to day, you're trying to pay a house off, you're paying loans, you're paying credit cards, you're doing all the things you have to do just to keep afloat, and then they whack in all these different events, right? And I say they, there is no they, but the events happen, right? Whether they're natural or man-made. So essentially what we've got now are people looking further afield, and they're looking around going, well, what else can we do? How can we dodge this? I don't want this again, right? I don't want to be chasing toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
But, sorry, throwing
crazy.
But
crazy times.
But that was crazy times, right? And that just showed how tender, how soft we've become, right? We don't need to be hard, but we've lost the ability to be resilient, right? And so there's things out there now. There's teachings and education and experiences, knowledge out there that give us the ability to be resilient, and that is, permaculture and all the different forms of regenerative teaching, which is fantastic. So regenerative is making something better, but it's also making your life better. So you can be, you can have a regenerative life. You don't need to just be a regenerative farmer. You can be a regenerative grower. There's all, the word regenerative is just making better. So permaculture itself is one of the very few things, if the only set of principles, ethics, and design process that actually allow us to look at life in all its grandeur, all its facets. All right. So, I mean, I have this discussion with a lot of people. They'll talk about all these different things. They'll talk about, regenerative ag and syntropic farming and all these things, and they're all fantastic strategies and techniques and methodologies, but they aren't the process. They aren't the framework, right, of what you need to set everything up. It's that they're strategies and techniques, and they're awesome, but you use them once you know you need to use them.
Yeah, we were talking last week about permaculture being the lens in which you see your life. And I said the biggest impact it's had on me is that first observe and interact, and the fact that has made me slow down, and it has made me be in the moment. And it has nothing to do with gardening, you know what I mean? It has everything to do with how I see my life, how I see things on a day-to-day basis, how I'm going about with this protracted thinking rather than rushing into something and just action for action's sake. Those things that have really changed in my life. I don't have property. We're not gardening at all. So I think I felt it even more so because I don't have that land to do anything on, how it's affecting all these other aspects of my life.
It's so empowering. What you just said then is so empowering to know that something like permaculture can assist you even when you don't have all the things that you think you need to have straight away, right? So the idea that it can even help you just find the pathway to where you need to be, the idea that the permaculture design process, which was absolutely brilliantly put together, and has been evolving ever since, is giving us the guidance, the toolkit to be able to utilize it to find what we want. Now, you could say it's for looking for land, but it may not be looking for land. It may be looking for the group of people that you'd like to associate with and collaborate with and do more in your life with. It could be that it might find you the animals of the love of your life in animals. Like for me, it's turkeys, right? and you've got.
So on a sidebar on that, I have to let you know, or I have to let our listeners know as well. So you kindly gave me a beautiful little boy turkey because we lost our hen to a fox. And he has settled in so well. He's actually settled in a little bit too well because our turkeys come and hang out with us around the house during the day. They think they're dogs. We haven't told them that they're turkeys. And he now gets up not just on our beanbag and lays in between the cushions and overlooks the valley on the beanbag. He now shares the bed with the dog and also jumps up on the lounge next to us while we're sitting out there, having a cuppa, and he just props himself up on the arm. And, so when you talk about finding those things that just set your soul on fire and make you so happy, like nothing else matters. When you've got, people are going to laugh listening to this, but, when you've got a bird like that is willing to just come and sit next to you and hang out with you, it's like nothing else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anything else is happening.
It really is. I mean, at the moment, my daughter Bronte has, a rabbit that is a house rabbit, and it's fantastic. Follows around, does everything with her, and she walks out the back deck, and then she's got wild thrushes, bird thrushes, and God knows, like a kingfisher and something else. There's three of them. One's called Kevin and one's called Basil. I don't know. They all come down and eat out of her hand, and they sing to her of a morning, waiting for the food.
I've got Snow White in my head. When she walks through the forest and all the animals just start coming to her.
It's bizarre. It is bizarre. So and from a happy dad point, I stand back and I get there and I go, well, it wasn't quite in my vision to have my daughter hand feeding thrush, but oh my God, how awesome is that, right? So I'm like going, well, tick, thanks for coming.
That's really interesting. How do you think permaculture has affected you as a father?
I think it's maybe a better father. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to do permaculture to be a good father, but it definitely has. Well, okay. Can I put an analogy to that? Can I put something sideways to that? This is the truth. It's the same as how I see myself as a gardener, right? Permaculture makes me look like a good gardener. I'm not. I don't know if I'm such the good gardener. I'm more well designed, and I set up the right systems to be successful. I've done that with my family.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd like to think I'm a good dad. I'm trying hard to be a good dad, but I know that the systems I've set up are definitely making me look like a good dad, without a doubt.
Yeah, you're using it's not even what you've learned, it's what you've become from where you've been, what you've learned, how you've interacted, the connections that you have. That's brought you into being where you are now. It's not something that you necessarily, like, you don't learn how to be a good dad from permaculture, right? Like, it's something that is, you become.
Yeah.
You step into it.
Well, as I say, it's, if you think about it, when you're thinking about permaculture, the permaculture design process, apart from the principles, the design process is about functioning and observing and acknowledging pattern understanding. So you're understanding life's patterns. So everything we do, everything that happens is a pattern. There is no doubt. So by attributing the permaculture design process, learning that, you start to understand these little patterns. So, your daughter wakes up in the morning, she'll go have a coffee or whatever, and your wife wakes up and you wake up, and then, at the same time, the animals are doing something and the birds are singing, and, everything's a pattern. So then when you start to work within those patterns and you start to look at the beneficial ones, you're trying to keep them and replicate them. And then anything that isn't as beneficial or even sometimes detrimental, you're tweaking and trying to change them. So because you're doing that, that's having a positive impact on your family life. And it's all the little things. It's like, it could be something as simple as, in the early days, snakes were coming up to the back deck because we had no orchards and no plant-based systems further down the paddock. And once we set those up, the snakes decided to stay down lower and didn't come up to the back deck, and now we don't get them up at the back deck anymore. So it was a protective security type thing for my young kids to be able to walk out on the deck. So here I am thinking about one. I was working with one level of systems, which was the grow systems, but the beneficial impacts were actually looking after my family. So that's why I say, with that analogy with gardening, I feel that I'm a good dad, but I think what I've set up and the way I keep continually observing, assessing, and interacting with our systems is making me look like a better dad. Or maybe he's making me a better dad. I don't know.
take
but
it
really
take
does.
the credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that it's hard sometimes to reconcile your ideals around permaculture with, the fact that you're still living in society? You're not living like hermits out in the middle of nowhere. You're still, living within the rules and restrictions that we have to abide by, even the ridiculous ones that are, anyway. But we've all got those. Like, do you find that you struggle with that sometimes, or have you kind of let go of those ideals?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I struggle with it. I definitely think about it. You've got to be careful. It's easy to become a purist. And the problem with being a purist is that you put far too much effort. Well, probably effort's not the right word. You put far too much emphasis on what you're trying to achieve, and the reality is that you end up being overwhelmed, and you don't actually achieve. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, you're always trying to find, using the permaculture principles, you're always trying to find the best possible outcome, right? And the permaculture principles aren't like going to a church, in the sense that, no offense to the church, but permaculture principles are purely guidance, right? So the idea is that if you don't quite meet a principle, or if you're doing something that has four out of 12 principles, then it's still good enough to undertake and move forward with. You should not be that hard on yourself if you get there and go, well, it hasn't quite met that principle, but it's caught those 5 principles. That could be good enough, understanding that as time goes on, you can always come back and tweak and make things better, right? But coming in from the angle where life is as is, like, in other words, even earning money, right? The idea that we've got to charge for courses and workshops. If I didn't have to pay for my house or pay back a loan or a credit card, yeah, God, you do it for the love of it. I mean, it's that much fun, and it's that awesome meeting like-hearted people that you absolutely would do it. And Nikki and our ultimate goal is to one day not require any payment of any form, and be able to just share that out. But that's that part of life that you're talking about, where you're caught having to fall within the constraints of paying loans, and there's certain compliances that you need to stick with. There's some compliances you can fudge, and that's as far as I'm going with that. But
that's what you call using the edges.
Using the edge effect, absolutely, absolutely.
It's funny you say that, because I never really thought the book Retro Suburbia would really apply to me, thinking it was purely just this urban context. And so I never really read it when I was doing your course, but because we had that 100-acre block in mind, and now we're at a smaller scale, I borrowed it off a friend, and I've been reading it, and there is so much in there that is not about even urban stuff. It's just concepts and ideas and ways of thinking and ways of relating to people, and, fudging little things like, he dug out his curb so he could, redirect the water, and if nobody says anything, then cool, kind of thing. And there's so much in there that was just so relevant, and I plugged it last week, and I'll plug it again, that it's a pay what you can afford at the moment if you buy it online.
Yep.
So that's really accessible for anybody who wants to get it. But it was really, really, really cool reading it, because I literally just sat there and I've nearly finished the entire book cover to cover in the space of 3 weeks, because I just loved it so much.
It is. Look, honestly, it's an awesome book, and appreciate that there'd be pretty much most books in permaculture are worthy of reading. Because the way I look at everything is that why would you deny yourself of a chance to cherry pick a good idea? You know, like it's one of those things. If you don't know, you don't know. So until you've read it, now you know. And then sometimes you get pleasantly surprised by certain books, but things like, pretty much books from David Holgram and Bill and Ray Morrow and stuff like that. I mean, look, usually it's a given. I mean, I've read enough of their literature to get there and go, if something else is coming out from those guys, I'm like going, yeah, where's my copy, right? So yeah, it is. It's solid. Yeah. It's absolutely solid, and there's a lot of new blood too, and there's a lot of fantastic stuff coming out. It's constantly evolving. Even the principles, even though the principles are solid, they can be stretched and changed a little bit according to the reader. So you got to remember that one person reading permaculture principles to another person reading those permaculture principles may see slightly different things or understand slightly different idealisms back from that. So I've got no problem when somebody says to me, oh, this is how it feels to me. And I go, well, if that makes sense to you and it's doing a good thing and it's looking after nature and looking at it's ethical and blah, 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 well, then I'm happy to roll with that.
Yeah, that's, I think, the beauty of it, that they are principles. They're not rules. Yes. They're not hard and fast rules, and there's no right or wrong. And principles can be applied in so many different ways, in so many different contexts. And, as you said, it's the lens, and
it is.
Half the time you'll be applying something and you're not even realizing that that's a principle until after the fact. And you're like, oh, actually, I've met this and this and this and this, and I was only really going for those two things. But, how good is that? Because it's not, it is not something that is right or wrong. And I think that's a really good thing that you touched on before with the purist. And then there was 2 little words that you said in that sentence, and you said good enough.
Yeah.
And I love good enough, because there is no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as being a purist, because, unless you are living by yourself in the middle of nowhere, it's impossible. And really, even then, and this is something that you said in the course, and I had a, oh yeah moment. Even if you are living by yourself in the middle of nowhere, you are still having an impact on the land. You have to. Yeah. Or are you really actually, doing potential damage, even though you could be potentially doing benefit? So you're not a purist. So it is all context and conjecture as well as to what that looks like and how it's applied.
Yeah, look, and I suppose that when you think about everything in life, the idea of, and again, I'm not knocking the idealism of being a purist. It's just that sometimes that's putting a lot of pressure on people who can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are some people in this world that have the time or the money, maybe the drive, maybe they've got the freedom, right? So it could be even a bit of a privilege to actually become a purist in some form or fashion of something that they're doing. I suppose the only purist that I am is that I just love thinking about things. So I'm a purist in thinking about something.
The theory.
But I'm not a purist in anything else, because I love to just have a go. I'm prepared to change. I'm prepared to change all the time. And love it. I couldn't even imagine a life without it. So for anybody listening out there, I would definitely say that the one thing you do not have to aspire to is to be somebody that is the absolute best of something.
Oh,
you don't need to be that, right?
Yeah.
You just need to be the person that actually puts one foot forward in front of the other and has a go. That's all you got to do.
And sometimes that purist thinking is enough to turn you off. Like someone who, only empties their red bin every 6 months, I could never do that. Or maybe I will one day, who knows? But you know what I mean? That's not something that's on my journey right now. And if I saw that as something that I had to do as part of being part of the permaculture crew, then it might put you off completely from ever going down that path. So I think there's a pitfall in poo-pooing what people do, or that that's not very permaculture kind of thing, because everyone's contexts are different and you can only take on so much in certain seasons of your life. So
we're mad if we think we can't learn from each other.
Totally.
So the idea that I'll learn from you guys, guys learn from me, I learn from somebody else, like the idea that it never ever stops, and there's it would be really hard to put yourself in a position where you get there and you go, I'm the best at this, or I'm a purist of this, because somebody will come along with a slightly better idea or a slightly different thought, and you'll get there in the head and you'll go, oh God damn, that's a good idea, right?
But I'm going to hang on to my ideal. I'm going to hang on to it.
You're better to play. I'm always a big fan of playing the underdog level, right? Because the idea is that you're not overwhelming somebody else, you're not overwhelming yourself, right? So you come in and you go, all I need to do, and you say this to yourself, there might be nobody around but the turkeys, right? And you're saying this to yourself, and you're literally going, righto guys, today we're going to build a water tower. Not quite sure if it's exactly what we need, but we've planned for it. We've done our analysis, we've done our little bit of assessment on it, and you're going to have a go and make it happen. Now, if it doesn't work perfect, right, but it actually works in some form or fashion, then you have the opportunity that it's already there, which means then you can tweak it. If you get scared away from doing that, it's not there. You can't tweak it. It doesn't exist, right? So I'm a big fan of doing your very best planning, doing your very best analysis and checkup, but at some point just having a go and knowing that that potentially it's not going to be perfect, and that you can spend the rest of your days just perfecting it.
Yep, tweak it, play with it, and it's one of those things that what you've got today isn't going to be the same as what you had last week or what you have tomorrow. So things change, the context changes, so it's going to be forever evolving.
I think that's what makes it so cool.
It's fun.
Like, seriously, who wants an end date or an end result? I mean, damn, I've been on this property now at Limestone for 13 years, and I'm now coming back to things that I put in 11 and 12 years ago and going, right, now it's time to refurbish you, and now I've got the chance to, after all those years of observation, right, what if I put the doorway just over there instead of there? And, it was not a bad idea in the day. They were justified, but then you've just got to go, damn, if I did that, I'm going to get another 2 functions back out of it, and it's going to have a better relationship with that thing next to it. It just continues. And I had this discussion, with friends and with my wife many a time, where we get there and we go, how boring for something to get to a point where it's like building a house and you go, da-da, I've built a house.
Yeah,
right?
I've done
this is your life. Right? You want to be doing this to the day you fall over into the soil.
And turn back to compost.
Feed your soil. Have you got any projects you're currently working on your property that you want to share with us?
I've always got projects. Right? So
surely you can fit some more espalier in there somewhere, Brett.
Well, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
And every year I say there's no more room, and every year we find a spot. Currently, we've just finished 2 projects, which are pretty cool. So one is the plumbed roof hinged compost bay system.
Yep.
So, and it's when I say finished again, okay. So, talking about not being perfect, we built it. So it's a 3-bay compost system. It has an angled roof. It has a guttering at the back. It has a pipe that goes into a 200-litre barrel, which is there to make the tea to then make the compost. So, and funny enough, we had that drizzle rain there the other week, and I think there might have been something like 15 or 18 mils over 2 days, and the barrel filled up. So I went, okay, that's cool. And it was only 3.5 square meters of roof over this compost-based system.
Yeah. Wow.
So everything's there, everything's working, and I'm lifting this roof up, and I go, and this is after we've done the workshop. How good would it be to put some gas struts, the ones that open up the bonnets of a car? So we're going to get some second-hand gas struts out of a wrecker, and we're going to put gas struts on the roof. But there's a project that was supposedly completed and now got another stage.
Yep.
So that one's rocking. We got that one going. But the other one is the plumbed grey water system. And again, none of these are new. They're just tweaked versions of what other people are doing. I took inspiration from lots of other places. But we've built, so getting a second-hand composting bay, we've put various filtration layers in there, starting with terracotta to large chunk wood to large wood chip to charcoal to fine wood chip, and has a pipe that angles back down over the top, and that top bit of wood chip takes any muck, so it's grey water, not black, and then it filtrates through. So this section does the job of doing the first stage of cleaning, and then that water moves into the first stage of biofiltration, which is the growth around the base of it, which is a couple of different types of waterborne lamandras, and then it moves out into the banana circle around that. So it's already up and running and working. Plants are loving it. It's going to be really interesting to watch how that progresses over the next 6 months to a year. This is based on the old grey water we had that was separate, which we've kept up and running. So as a redundancy, we've got that on a grey water switch that we can run down that one if we want to dry the other one out. So all we're doing is building on projects, tweaking projects, refurbing projects, and building more redundancy every time we do it. But the new one going in, which the photos haven't gone up yet for this, but we'll have it on Facebook soon, is we've just got our very last decent sized tank for us on 1 acre in our property, 15,000 litres. There's nowhere else to put a tank that size on our property without taking up the driveway. And it's been placed where our old farm gate caravan used to be. And we've just finished putting the roof frame over the top. So it's a self water harvesting system for a tank. It will have other backup as well. It'll have other ways water comes in. But it's a demonstration as a freestanding system. So it's going to have a roof area of about somewhere up around that 12 square meters.
Yeah.
And it's designed to definitely refill a couple of times a year, without doubt, depending on the rainfall. If we get big rainfall, it could do a couple more times. But essentially, it's been put at one of the highest points in our property, so it can act as a gravity feed back to the house, an additional gravity feed. If our pumps fail, we've got water still coming to the house, but it's also being at the highest point, we can send it anywhere on our property. So it's just another addition to the resilience. We've been saving up for that tank, and you know, for our viewers, this is what we have to do, guys. We're still in that position where we can't go out and outright buy these things. It may have only been $2,500, but that was $2,500 we saved up for a few months to buy. And the roof structure is secondhand. We got that off Marketplace for $180. Secondhand, like, so most the tank's new, but everything else is upcycled and renewed. Yeah, reused.
Love a good upcycle.
Yeah. Look, that's the latest project, and then we move into the updating and retrofitting of the breeders' pens for the ducks and chickens, and that happens in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, every 2 weeks is different here.
We when we did our intro episode for how Joe and I met and everything, I was saying how I've seen your place in so many different seasons, because I did a tour and then the intro course and then the PDC, and I've come back since, and it's forever changing. And I said when I first saw it in spring, I was like, is this a plant or a structure? Like, I can't even tell because there's so much going on. There was just passion fruit. I felt like I was in a jungle, like wading through your garden. But seeing it in winter was so cool because all of the systems made so much sense. And I thought, oh, will we even get much out of doing a winter course? Like, I don't feel like I'm going to get much out of it, but I think it was the best because we could just see everything exactly as it was, getting ready for that explosion in spring. You could see how everything was getting set up. You could just really see all the systems, I think, in winter, which we would have maybe missed out a bit in different seasons. But it was so cool.
Yeah, look, you just hit the nail on the head. That's perfect because we do talk about this. What you're basically talking about is seeing something in the bones of something, right? So winter helps you see the bones. Drought and strong events help you see the bones of a system, right? So in drought, leaves are lost, plants look like they're dying, but it allows you to see what's going on. It's so easy to get caught up in the lushness of a beautiful early autumn with rain. Everything's green, and we put our aerial shots up, and they go around the world, and we get Americans and UK and even Australians all getting there, and they're going, oh, he couldn't possibly be growing all that food. There's no sunlight getting in there. But they're only seeing a snapshot in time, and that snapshot in time is that beautiful canopy cover, and everything's all greened up. But it's only for a certain amount of time. It goes through so many changes via the seasons and via the climatic events.
Yeah.
So some of the best times to see my property in action, and it's going to be the same as your property, is when it's belting down rain. You're going to look. You're going to see what water does. When it's in drought, you're going to see what is staying hydrated, or what is, for lack of pardon the pun, a better word is treading water. So what is holding out through the drought? So what is resilient during the winds? What is protected and what's unprotected, right? And in winter and summer, in winter, you're going to see a lot of leaf fall, especially if you've got a lot of deciduous stuff, and you're going to see the place where it opens all back up again, and which it's meant to do, right? So in winter, it's meant to get the light in. Summer, you're meant to get the shade in, and so you're exactly right. That all PDC time, all course seasons are worthy of seeing. I just wish we could do it year long. I just wish we could run every season through the whole course.
We actually exchanged on our property today, Brett.
Oh, did ya? Congrats.
Yeah, but it was really cool being up there. We were there for about 3 weeks, and we got smashed with rain, and we got smashed with wind, and I was like, come on, Oscar. It was like 6:30 in the morning, kids are in their pajamas. I'm like, get in the car, we're going to the property. I want to see what the rain's doing. And the kids are at the back eating their toast, and we've got our cup of coffee sitting on the front lawn watching the kangaroos when all the rain's kind of settling, and looking at the drainage. People must have think we were crazy, like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, sitting there watching rain on this vacant block of land.
So what's so cool there is that you guys have turned up, and that's your heart moving into it, right? And that's you getting there and really starting to sink in that, wow, this is going to be not something that we reside on. We're going to become part of this. And you're going to steward it. You're going to look after it. You're going to make it better. There's no doubt. So what a feeling, and it's like, it's been a few years now for me, like 13 years here, but I remember coming onto this property at Limestone, and that's the same. You get there and you can't be there enough. Now, what I can tell you is 13 years later, I can't be here enough.
You don't need a holiday from your life.
No. We get invited to go places, and it's embarrassing. I get there and I go, I say to Nikki, I go, I really just want to be here. Like it's bizarre, but it's not. It's just that now you understand that it's not a case of even doing all this work. You've set systems up, but nature's done the work, and then you get to live it. You get to be amongst it. Damn, how are you going? I can only think that at the moment I'm 55. I reckon by the time I'm 65, 70, you'll need a crowbar.
You'll have grown literal roots into the property, and you're attached. When
Hell
something
yeah.
feels like it's so much a part of you, and it's, you feel like you're in the right place, so you don't need to be anywhere else.
Oh,
Like,
no, I'm deadly
80%.
passionate about that.
We've got 80% water running through our bodies, but Brett has 80% limestone.
Oh, it's weird. I mean, you can just see that. Dare I say that I've had probably dreams about this. That at some point, probably because I've watched too many science fiction movies, that my feet and my hands are all connected to the fungal hyphae and the tree roots, and like you just feel like it's. I
it
mean,
is.
amazing to be connected and just being able to just be and sit in the space and just get there and maybe having a beer or a honey mead or a apple cider or a wine, hopefully all homemade if possible. But just being able to be amongst that and that's good for you as an individual, for your soul, right? For you, right? But to have your family and your friends around you as well, like, oh man,
But you know what, Brett, that's just such a testament to you and the impact that you've had on so many people. Like being new to permaculture and connecting through all these groups, there's not a week that doesn't go past that someone's like, oh, you should check out Brett from Limestone, or I did my thing here at Limestone. Like, you are just so passionate about what you do, and it's why people are so attracted to you and your vibe and what's going on there, because it is just so amazing.
Well, look, to be honest, it is a side benefit, and I'm totally appreciative of it. But if I was asked in all honesty, Brett, what's the main thing? For me, it's just the being. Just when I walk out the back door and I see my wife and my daughter sitting either down on the grass or on the back veranda or walking through and foraging and picking their flowers like they always do, and just being in amongst it, and then me grabbing a milk crate and going down to hang out with the boys, the turkey boys, and having a little beer with my boys, that's the core, and the bonus relationships is with all you guys. Everything, it's just like how could I go wrong? It's just brilliant, right? And give me more. You're allowed to ask for more. It's all good.
You say yes, thanks, and more, please.
Yes, absolutely. Be thankful, be respectful, and ask for more.
Because the beautiful thing is, by you asking for more and you having more is not taking away from anyone or anything else. It's actually still adding to it. It's like love. The more you give, the more you get, and it just continues on. It is a circular economy with nature.
Well, we go back to regeneration, right? Regenerative, the word regeneration. The idea that you've regenerated yourself, you've regenerated your family, you regenerate your extended family and your friends, and then hopefully, even just by sharing the time at your place, and it may not be you, it could be your farm that does it, but maybe it adds a regenerative trigger to the people that come along for us. It could be our students, and then it's like what's the old tag? It's like we're tagging each other, right?
Yeah.
But the difference is, instead of saying tag you're it, it's tag we're it.
Yep.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh.
There's your body tingles. Write it down before you forget. I reckon that's a really good place to wrap up. We ask everyone one final grounding question, and that's, if you could pass on one piece of permaculture advice, what would it be?
Can I do it in more than one word?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so if piece of permaculture advice, oh my God. For me, it would be knowledge and planning. So what I would say to all our viewers and listeners would be, take the time now to learn and absorb. You don't have to do it all at once. Just what you need to move to the next stage. So initially, sort of take the time and maybe just undertake a vision for yourselves and your partners and your family. Ask yourself what your why is. Right, we spoke about that earlier, but ask yourself what do you and your family really want from life, right? And when you're thinking about your why, if anybody's not quite getting that, your why for us, well, our why was better health, especially for my wife Nikki, more life resilience. I wanted to be, you know, I didn't want to be caught out with things. I didn't want the water going off out the front and not being able to drink water, or the power going off and not being able to cook and stuff like that. More knowledge, always. I mean, never ever stop taking something in. A book, a video, YouTube, everything, even Facebook, all these things, they're all tools. How you use them is up to you. Mm-hmm. So, and look, more like-hearted friends. Absolutely, right? And I will finish with this. So once you know your why, you can start to set goals and aim for it, right? So when you're thinking about what those goals and aims might be, think about, right, what if I'm putting a list of things in front of me to go, right, I'm liking this permaculture thing, but at the moment I'm living in an apartment, or I'm in an urban place, or I'm on this block of land that has nothing on it but an old caravan, whatever it might be. You can get there, and the things that you can do for free these days is you can accumulate knowledge. So straight away, as part of your setting goals, is become more informed about whatever the thing is that you need to do first. So if you're on a caravan, you need to build a house, learn about building a house, a passive design house. If you're in an apartment, learn how you can make use of the veranda, the space, right? And it goes on. So upskilling, experience. Who can you collaborate with, right? Where can you gain support? So basically, these steps alone, they'll create change in your life the minute you start, and in so many ways, right? So it basically, by just doing that little path, that little process I just pointed out, it sets you on a different path that you're already on right now. The minute you start thinking that way, your path has changed. Anything's possible.
I love that. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. That was so good.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. My pleasure.
That was wonderful. Right. Thank you.
Well, we rattled off in all different directions, didn't we?
And that's the end of the show. So don't forget to join us on our Facebook group to keep chatting. I'm pretty sure Brett's in our Facebook group, isn't he, Joe?
I'm pretty sure he is, yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll be happy.
Dragging him across.
I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions, and we'll definitely share some photos of his property because it is amazing. And if you want to go check it out, he's got farm tours and things happening, so that'll all be in the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Practical Permaculture podcast. We hope this episode gave you some inspiration, confidence, and has helped you in your permy journey.
Head to the show notes for all the resources mentioned in today's episode. And if you like this podcast, please remember to subscribe and rate and share. It really does help us get out there. And if you don't, that's okay. See you next week.
Bye.